morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, whenever you happen to be listening. I am so thrilled to welcome a wonderful guest to the show today. I met her through an InsurTech happy hours, Women in InsurTech, introduced somewhat by Sharon Fox and by Kaylee Chapello, both former guests on this show. And it was just this wonderful group of women getting together, talking about what it is that we do and, enjoying a beverage in the meantime. So today I have on the show Susan Hatten. She is the Chief Operating Officer of BrokerTech Ventures and Senior Manager of Corporate Community Engagement at Holmes Murphy. So very busy schedule, I'm guessing, but how are you doing today, Susan?
I am so well. And Olivia, thank you again for having me on your show. I've been looking forward to this. I know you mentioned the connecting point through Sharon Fox and the Trust Layer team. That was indeed a most fabulous virtual happy hour. Some pretty incredible women involved. And thank you again for including myself and also Ellen Willitson, our Chief Financial Officer at Holmes Murphy.
Yes, it was such a fun group. It was just this amazing Brady Bunch screen full of amazing women who I've had the privilege of many of them getting to interview, but I was so excited to get to meet you, and I'm excited to just learn more about what it is that you do. I'm familiar with Holmes Murphy from my time on the agency side. I know you guys are kind of our neighbors down the road a little bit from the agency that I used to work at, but I'm interested to learn more about the work that you're doing at BrokerTech Ventures as well. So we're going to dig into all of that fun stuff today, which will be great. And, we're also going to get to know each other a little bit along the way. So this is going to be a fun interview. But, what is life like for you right now? Are you working from home? What does family look like? How are you guys, going about navigating this pandemic that we're all still in?
Well, and Olivia and I, we had the chance to visit a little bit before we were getting into the show. And I mentioned I listened to another news podcast where every week they share it's week 30, it's week 35. This week is week 38 working from home, which just seems absolutely unreal. And to answer your question, I do primarily work from home. Our office in Holmes Murphy in Des Moines and Waukee has had a transition plan that has had a start and a kind of reverse course, just given the way things have gone.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm very fortunate through my role, not only at Holmes Murphy, but BrokerTech Ventures, that I can work primarily from anywhere. And I know that not everyone has that ability. So I feel very fortunate. My family, my core family unit is here in Des Moines. So thankfully, our very small group of 4 will be together on the Thanksgiving holiday. And then I come from a very large family. Normally, in any other given year, there would have been 80 to 100 of us together for the Thanksgiving holiday. So that looks a little bit different, probably a bit fewer crock pots this year, but but nonetheless, just thankful that I do live in proximity to have that small group gathering. I think this year, between Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, they are going to look very different for so many of us. And it's for the safety of those we love and also those we don't even know. And at the same time, I think it's a test in our resilience and creativity. So how can we make the holidays special and memorable in unique and interesting ways, create some new traditions, maybe something we decide to do this year in a drive-by fashion will end up, being a part of the fabric of the holidays moving forward. So, I think it's a mindset, and I realize every day can be different and not every day is easy. But if we look at it with that vantage point of taking this as an opportunity in this point in time in our lives to really reflect on what we can and should be thankful for, I think that's what I'm trying to do this year.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always something to be thankful, right? And it's hard sometimes. Some days it's like, I'm not feeling it. Um, Fortunately for me, I do like, I think we surround ourselves with the right people that will kind of pull us back in, where we kind of start to go to those outer fringes where we're kind of down on the whole thing. It certainly is more meaningful to have those people that are willing to kind of call you back and help you recenter during those difficult times.
I couldn't agree more. And certainly there's the authenticity and human element of what's happening around us, where I absolutely have had those days where I'm in a dark place, and I need someone close to me to help me kind of crawl myself, back toward the light, if you will. And thankful that I have that friends, family, professional network that help me in each of those instances. I a statistic I heard recently around loneliness, and just those who truly at the core are sensing and feeling loneliness. It is something to the degree of the same health impacts as if you were smoking more than a pack of cigarettes a day. And that's alarming, right? Because think of those who don't necessarily have a familial or a friend network, or a network and nucleus of professional mentors and surroundings. So I think this year I've also I've thought about what I could do to potentially reach out to those areas in our community, whether it means dropping meals off, whether it means, putting something out on social media to say, even a message, I know this time is hard, and if, you need a lending ear, sometimes you never know who would take you up on that if you were to put that out there. So you're right. It's the support networks that have really allowed, personally for me, to survive these last few months, because I live alone. I love where I do live, but it's the networks that are so much a part of my being that have allowed me to get through the last 9 months.
Yeah, and I think this comes around to me. It's come around so many times over the last few months. And I don't know if we would have appreciated it the same way if we hadn't been through everything that we're going through right now. But as much as like we need the support of others, like when we can give it, we should give it as well. Like it's that sense of community, and kind of rethinking that and rebuilding that and reconceptualizing the way that looks and feels. And if you weren't really an active part of some sort of community, like figuring out how to engage those people that wasn't part of their lifestyle, and now we need it in such a different way, and it's more critical than it ever was before.
Absolutely. And you mentioned community, and that is part of it's one of my core tenets, has been being a part of our community, whether that's nonprofits or a variety of boards of directors. And those are some of the most hardest hit areas in terms of necessity, and I think that's critical, as well as this really has been a year of illustrating those who are on the brink of not having access to necessity, and then those of us that fortunately have, and how can we share those gifts of time, talent, and treasures now with others. And I think that's an important message in the holidays, and how we could do that and make that a part of tradition moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I had I kind of had a situation was completely non-pandemic related, but a few weeks ago, or it probably wasn't even that long ago, 2-3 weeks ago, my daughter's skateboard was stolen. Now, this was horrible. It was very upsetting. I mean, and it's not the end of the world. Like, she's going to be fine. It was a skateboard and it wasn't her, and she was fine. But a complete stranger bought her a new skateboard. It was completely unnecessary, but it was such an important teaching moment for my children, not only to just take care of their stuff and not to take things that don't belong to them, but also that community comes in all different ways. Like you just never know when you're going to need that. And it was just, it was like the light in a really bad situation. And so, reminding them, like, we all have the power to do that. Like, we can be that light in some way. And it was timely in terms of the holidays coming up and that kind of thing. And so I hope we talk about it. We, like, every time she gets on the skateboard, we talk about where it came from, why it's important, why, and what it means to have somebody that didn't know her. They didn't know us. They just wanted to bring some joy into somebody else's life.
I love that story, and I'll share this with you in a very different way, and certainly not as grand scale. But this morning I was getting a coffee, and there was a mother and 2 little girls who were having a beverage, and one of the young girls, and we're certainly all masked, and but she was very polite, and I could tell perhaps have a bit of a different upbringing and different life experiences potentially, and again, I was just taken aback by how polite this young girl was, and again, unknowing of each other, and we can't even see each other's faces because we had our masks on. And I just left thinking, I have no idea who they are. I don't even know really what they're ordering. But when I went up to pay, I just said, I'm just put this much down and just take care of whatever it is they're getting, and whatever it's not used, just cover someone else. And it's that point where it wasn't a grand gesture, but it to your point of a teaching moment, perhaps was a moment with her 2 little girls, and to say this is the season where you do think of others, and in small ways, and you don't do it for your name on a plaque or a gold star. It's more because I got more out of that moment, because I just felt like this tiny little thing I could do that might bring a smile to their face. I gleaned more from that moment, much like your secret skateboard angel, was the same kind of thing. They probably got so much out of that, and you also did, because you had moments with your kiddos that you could use as teaching time.
Yeah. And Susan, it's so funny that you bring this up, because I always say coffee is my love language. Like it is it's my happy place. Like, it's the way I start my day every day. But like, when I do actually leave the house and I go through that coffee drive-through, like, nothing makes me happier than to pay for the coffee for the person behind me. When I traveled, I loved doing it at airports. It's amazing though how many people will be like, no, I don't want a free coffee. And I'm like, there's no strings attached to this coffee. Like, I just want to give somebody coffee. But yeah, I mean, it is those little things that we can do, like, create echoes.
Absolutely. It's a ripple effect.
For sure. So it'll be interesting though, as we were talking, I was thinking about, I wonder what Times Square is going to be like.
Well, I will have to tell you. So historically, every year I go to Manhattan the week after they put up the Rockefeller tree. This year will be the first year in nearly a decade where I haven't done that.
Oh.
So a very dear friend of mine sent me a Marco Polo video chat. I don't know if you're familiar, but she took me to see the Rockefeller tree yesterday. So I'm sure you've been following. They're released, I believe released today, the baby owl that they found in the tree. But you know what? She kind of did the panoramic, and she said it's nice to see actually people are here, but it was just, they're doing what they can, so it isn't a large group setting. But it will be a very different experience, no doubt. And I'm just telling myself I will enjoy it and appreciate it all the more next year when I go back for my traditions. So
Absolutely. All those things are like the little things are bigger than they ever were before. Like when we could finally go to the grocery store again. You know what I mean? Like some of that stuff was just like, whoa, this is amazing. And so I think when we can move about more freely and go about those, it's just going to be even more precious. It's going to be sweeter for sure.
absolutely.
I'm looking forward to like making travel plans and being able to keep them.
Yes. Yes. Rather than the fits and starts, it seems like we've been doing. I know.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, here's to 2021 being a little bit different than 2020.
100%.
Yes. Oh gosh. So yeah, I feel like we could talk about, oh man, I can tell already that I'm going to learn so much from you throughout this interview, but I want to dive into work a little bit, and then we're going to get back to all the fun stuff again too. Not that work isn't great. Work is fun. Sorry. I feel like I shouldn't have said it that way, but you know what I mean. We're going to get into the life stuff and the work stuff, and it all meshes together. But like I said earlier, I'm familiar with Holmes Murphy, fairly large insurance agency operation down there in Des Moines. But so I want to learn about the role and how you got there, but also where BrokerTech Ventures came from and what you guys are doing there. So I'll let you have the floor to share that journey.
Sure, absolutely. So I'll even take it a step further to maybe help illustrate how I actually fell into insurance, because I am a graduate of Iowa State University, and I graduated with a double degree in apparel merchandising and business marketing. And so certainly not a degreed insurance professional. That was not in my pedigree when I graduated college, but nonetheless, I knew I wanted to be involved in marketing, branding, creative in some way, shape, or form. And I actually was interested in publishing. I had a vision of becoming the next chairwoman of Condé Nast, and thought that was going to be a very easy endeavor. And I was fortunate at the time. There was an advertising agency in Ames, Iowa. So where Iowa State is located, I was able to begin an internship while I was still going through undergrad. And that was eye-opening for me to be a part of working with large brands, large and small brands. And actually also where I became very interested in the nonprofit space. So I ultimately ended up staying with that company. And at the time that I departed, I had been leading business development for the advertising agency for the better part of a decade. So if you think about from 2004 to 2014, there was a lot that happened in the world in those 10 years. And so everything from the Great Recession, 2008 really to 2010, to figuring out how to sell what no one wanted to buy, which was marketing and communication services, that certainly sharpened my skill set in terms of sales, communications, really channeled social media before it was popular, helped deploy a startup marketing agency within our marketing agency, and we had customers early on when no one knew what Twitter was. They were a customer, and so that was really great fun, and I learned a lot, and ultimately was very close with our president, who again, this really gets into mentors in my life, but the value of the professional relationship and yet personal that you can have with those you report to. And we had an open dialogue, and so open, in fact, that she shared with me that there were going to be some acquisitions and changes in the company, and basically gave me the freedom, while still employed, to think more broadly about what the future might look like. And that's pretty incredible. It just so happened to be at the same time that I was getting to know Dan Keogh, who was in a leadership role at Holmes Murphy. Dan is our current chairman and CEO. And in 2014, I believe he was just in year one of that elevated role. And he and I knew each other through, I'd say, civic and community work in central Iowa. And ultimately, to make a very long story short, Dan and Holmes Murphy, and also Ellen Willitson and others, took a chance on me. I was certainly coming from outside the industry with a very different vernacular. And they basically said, Holmes Murphy will embrace a different mindset. And what could you bring to the firm that might challenge us to think differently about sales or the structure of, our subsidiary units? So I have been with Holmes Murphy a little over 6 years. That's hard to believe. As you mentioned, my current role with the company is I oversee corporate and community engagement, which is encompassing of our Holmes Murphy Foundation. So where we give our own time, talent, and treasures, to now working with our enterprise around our brand. What's our brand and our purpose? And I work with a team around those visions. So getting to where what led us to BrokerTech Ventures. So I, all while having been a part of Holmes Murphy for 6 years, had been a mentor at the Global Insurance Accelerator, which, Olivia, are you familiar with the GIA? Have you done any
somewhat
work?
familiar?
Okay, so the Global Insurance Accelerator, headquartered in Des Moines, when it was founded 6 years ago, was the first insurtech accelerator in the world. And it might seem like that can't be how it's true. FinTech was really popular in 2013, 14. Insurtech was not, it hadn't caught on yet. It wasn't even until, I believe, 2016 or 17 that InsurTech Connect, the conference, was founded. So again, I was close with the gentleman, Brian Hemesath, who founded the Global Insurance Accelerator, and he asked me to mentor. So I was happy to do it. But each year I was seeing that these InsurTech solutions were coming with technologies that were applicable to the carrier and to the reinsurer, but not necessarily to the broker. So Holmes Murphy is an entrepreneurial organization, and ultimately said, you know what, this is an opportunity for us to take this initiative, own it, brand it. We could do it alone, or we could bring others, our agency friends and family, and make this initiative larger than us, and ultimately create a 5-tower business model, which is what we are. And Holmes Murphy is co-founder and a majority owner of BrokerTech Ventures, along with M3 Insurance out of Madison, Wisconsin, ABD out of San Francisco, Payne West out of Helena, Montana, and Connor Strong and Buckaloo out of Camden, New Jersey. So it's been a wild ride. We celebrated 1 year in September.
Congratulations.
We're just a little over a year old. We have 13 agency partners in total. When we make an announcement in 2 weeks, we will announce 12 insurance company and reinsuring partners and wholesalers. And we next Tuesday will announce our first international expansion. So, wow, and a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
So many things going on, and I there's so much in there. I mean, you mentioned mentorship, and then there's just this open-mindedness that Holmes Murphy is operating with, that they obviously want different perspectives. They weren't looking for just insurance perspectives to bring into the company, which I think is how we all ultimately get better. Because very few of us actually mean to get into insurance. And if insurance becomes exclusive to those who were brought up in the industry or, have some sort of background, then we're going to really close our borders down to some really brilliant things that we could be doing. So I love that Holmes Murphy has always, been open to that idea. But then BrokerTech, wow, what incredible work. And to see, those are some powerful agencies that you guys have all brought together to really move InsurTech forward, and 4 agencies.
Yes, exactly. And that's, that's really the foundational methodology around BrokerTech Ventures, is to be the convening platform for broker-centric innovation, ideation, investment, and communication for the broader insurance ecosystem. And that sounds lofty and ambitious and bold, but it's meant to be, because that's what we're charting to do every day. And, really, BrokerTech Ventures was founded upon the philosophy of the infinite game. So I'm not sure if you're familiar. Simon Sinek is like, you talked about, a love language, and, he certainly has written some really powerful bodies of work. But if you think about what the infinite game could mean for the insurance industry, for those that believe it, for those that really believe that our industry is solving problems, it's helping people. Think about how insurance was applied to so many of what's happened, so many challenging times of even this year.
Yep.
Whether it was the pandemic, whether it was weather related, whether it was economic crises, and insurance has been there every which way you turn. And we believe, by embracing the infinite game philosophy that's embedded in BrokerTech Ventures, we can change the industry for the better. We can lean in to innovation and technology to make it better for our customers, our employees, and ultimately the industry.
That is, honestly, for anybody that's listening, if you haven't read that book, read that book. I felt it was such a game changer for me. I actually listened to it while running. I think I listened to it twice and bought the book so I could go back through and highlight like the stuff that really just jumped out to me. I don't think I have stopped so many times while listening to a book to put bookmarks in Audible than I did when I was reading that book. It's so good. So good.
It is. And it is, even when you break it down by, whether by chapter or by main message, or the 5 tenets really of the book, you could create entire business theses on, each of them. And it's also, here's the interesting part, is it's not for everyone.
No.
Right? There certainly are those in business and in life who will never prescribe to that philosophy, and that's okay. But there's also a reason why you won't ever see BrokerTech Ventures involving every agency or every insurance company or every, investment firm.
Yeah.
We're highly intentional around that.
That's what I was going to say. It's provided you guys the clarity that you need to like figure out what your mission is and how you're going to go about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It is, it gives us it's our charter for the company, and it makes it easier, when we know something's not a fit, or when something is, and we have conviction around it. It's easier for us to extend an invitation, to really rally around an investment. We just made a recent investment announcement in Highwing, the insurance exchange platform, which is exciting. And, and we did it with others. We did it with several other agencies who are part of BrokerTech Ventures, and then one whom is not, but we think very highly of them. And so again, it's bringing minds, and because really it's minds and hearts together who can rally around and coalesce around a common mission.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to be excited to watch that continue to grow and succeed, because it's just so necessary in order to continue really moving our industry forward in a way that's meaningful, because we can get so caught up in like the shiny objects and not really find the stuff that's really meaningful and driving change. But to have a very intentional focus is in anything in life, and certainly as this industry continues to evolve, that intentionality is so critical.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned mentors earlier, so I want to dive into that. So who's made an impact on your career or your life and kind of brought you to where you are now?
Oh gosh. Well, so while we're on the topic of, I know we mentioned The Infinite Game and Simon Sinek, I really have to pay some homage to a book which I read when I was a senior in college, on my very first business trip, getting on a plane, no less. So this was a very big deal. And my first boss, who was the vice president of our advertising agency, gave me a piece of advice as we're getting to the airport. And he was because he also was a media director. So he was very, very dramatic and very, he was one that he would wear a director's hat just so you knew he could direct, media. And I miss him dearly, but he said, Susan, just gonna give you a piece of business advice. Every time you travel for business, you should pick up a book in the airport to take with you, so you have a story around where you got this book, and it was on X such and such business trip, and you write it in the cover. Bought on my way to visit Microsoft in 2004. So the book that I picked up in the airport that day was a book called Climbing the Ladder in Stilettos by Lynette Lewis. And again, 2004. So the book is a bit dated, but there's one chapter in the book that I have picked up and really made my own after I read the book. And the chapter was the formation of your own personal board of directors. So when you talk about mentors, I really took that very intentionally, that I wanted to build out a fabric of mentors that would become my personal board of directors. So they range in terms of where they are in their careers, their diversity in terms of life stages, their just their own endeavors, men, women, ranging in age. And I'm fortunate that one of my greatest mentors is also she was in my early informative years, a very structured mentor where I had homework and I would come to our appointments. And now she's one of my dearest friends, and she actually is my neighbor in my in our condo unit, and she's very well known in the media network. Her name is Connie Weimer. She's chairwoman and CEO of Business Publications, and she's a trailblazer. And she's again a very dear friend. And then, you know, professionally also, I mentioned Dan Keogh and Ellen Willardson, who I'm fortunate to work every day with via BrokerTech Ventures and Holmes Murphy. And I also report to them, but I learn from them every day. And they challenge me, and I'm so grateful for that. And so many that, you know, again, too many to name. And of course, my parents being the first of all, where they taught me how to work hard. They taught me what it meant to pay your civic rent. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so important is, and also just to our earlier point on the community. So that personal board of directors, those are my people. That's my community that they've really allowed me not only to survive, not just this year, but in general, and to thrive. And I'm deeply indebted to so many of them.
That's such a great idea. I'm gonna have to look for this book. I've never even thought about that whole concept of who, if you were going to build a board of directors, people that you trust and would want advice from. That's a very interesting approach to figuring out what that mentor relationship really looks like, and the impact that you want it to have on your life and your career.
Absolutely. And when I speak on this, some will ask how you balance those who are on your personal board of directors and then potentially those who you, let's say, pay for a service. So I'll give you an example. Through BrokerTech Ventures and Holmes Murphy, and then also just myself personally, you know, we have attorneys that we use in the corporate world, and then attorneys for any personal needs. But I have a gentleman on my personal board of directors who is none of those. So he is not in any of those roles where we are paying for a service. He's truly has my best interest at heart. Mm-hmm. And I know that, and he will give me advice and counsel that I then take when I apply it to a professional decision, a personal decision. Some might be investing, you know, investments. Yeah. I have an individual on my personal board who, again, she has my best interests at heart, and I counsel with her before I actually go to talk with my financial planner. And, you know, and I just think it's so important because I can be my authentic self when I'm sharing with them where I might have a great need or concern, my health, medical. Think about how, you know, wonderful it is to have a sounding board when you just need to ask a question before you go and book your appointment. Yeah. So yes, again, the book is out there. And Lynette Lewis, I think, is still writing, but she has a family now, and I still follow her, but I forever am grateful for picking up that book in the airport in 2004.
Yeah. So when we all start flying again, we'll all be buying more books in the airport.
Yes.
I've never even thought about what a great idea. It's
exactly
building a library of memories. It's so good.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's such a great idea. So when you look back on these experiences, what's one of the biggest lessons that you've learned along the way?
Oh, so many. So many. You know, I think it's taken me time. I'll give you two examples. It's certainly taken me time to and to know when it's not only agreeable, but it's acceptable to walk away from something. And I don't just mean in sales as an example, but that's certainly an applicable example in my career, where when I was, again, leading business development for an advertising agency or at Holmes Murphy and working in a sales capacity, it's not easy to walk away from something you put time, energy, and certainly emotion into, and then apply that to personal, where it might be relationships, that might be circumstances, it might even be a community engagement or a committee that you find is just not, in your best interest to be a part of anymore. And that's been hard for me to learn. And I still am not. I'm still, admittedly find it a struggle. And that would be one. And then I also, over time, have tried to become better at when I do have an idea, recognizing that it might not be wildly successful or wildly embraced, and it still doesn't mean I shouldn't share it. Sharing it is being free in expression, and just, again, allowing ourselves as professionals, as women, also to recognize it's okay to share and for it not to be wildly successful or embraced. And that's okay, because you're being your authentic self. And if I wasn't, I'd basically be shutting the creative part of my brain down, and that's not me. So those are two big lessons that I try to work on. I still work on every day.
Yeah, it's always a process. It's never there's no magic switch to flip. It'd be nice if there was, but it takes effort every single day, especially those big life things that are mindset shifting things. Just take a lot more effort. So kind of in that same vein, if you could go back and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, I would have to say that I would tell myself that it's okay not to be perfect. And in fact, being authentic is what you should strive for rather than perfection. And I realized that, I was just a part of a women's conference last week where one of the sessions was all around how do we combat that perfectionist syndrome. And I really, even most recently in the past year or so, have taken a look around those who are, I mentioned the personal board of directors, those who are on my personal board of directors that I admire, some from afar, some more closely. But I have really taken account and stock for watching them and being acutely aware of when they have made a comment around a mistake, or have, given someone else the spotlight when it very easily could have been them, or, admitted when we needed to walk away from, a situation that wasn't ideal and potentially wasn't up to an ethical standard that is difficult to call out. And I have learned so much from them that it's been easier for me to apply to myself, to say, if they can do it and be their authentic selves and recognize when they've been wrong, or walk away when a situation isn't ideal, even if you've worked really darn hard for it, that's what's been my motivator to be better at being my authentic self. But it's a work in progress.
Always, always. So you have had this amazing career. Like I love hearing about the work that you're doing. I love hearing about the community engagement aspect of Holmes Murphy, because like this is a philanthropic industry that we're in, and like seeing it as like part of such a focal point of the agency. Like it's such a reminder to the power that we have in this industry to really make a difference in people's lives, in so many different ways. But as you get to network with more women, and we had all of those wonderful women on our Zoom call, how do we promote more females into leadership positions? Like, how do we get them to take those steps? How do we continue that conversation going in the industry to help move it forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm a big example person. So I'll give you an example. You know, Holmes Murphy has an internal organization called Women Optimizing Women, and a credit to Ellen Willardson and a core group of others that really lifted this up. But the idea was all around women optimizing women, and that might mean that you're interested in elevating your career in a promotion or a leadership capacity. It might also mean you're not necessarily looking for a leadership role. You just want to be the best in your role, and that's okay. But how can we surround and support those who they may not aspire to be CEO or vice president of their division, but they aspire to be the best version that they can be as a graphic designer or as a claims representative, and that's what I love about this, internally, again, speaking to broker or to Holmes Murphy. At BrokerTech Ventures, we've created a subset team leading out what we're calling innovation and inclusion. So it's a subgroup inclusive of Dan Keogh, Ellen Willardson, Taruja Deshmukh, Brian Hetherington. So men and women lifting this up to say, you know what, if we would like to see more women in InsurTech, if we'd like to see more female founders apply to be a part of our accelerator, we need to be intentional. Mm-hmm. So the key word is intentional. And another example that I wanted to share was through the work of BrokerTech Ventures, I learned more about an organization called Black Girl Ventures, BGV, so BTV and BGV. But Black Girl Ventures is founded by Shelly's son, and they are a venture firm in New York who support Black and brown female entrepreneurs, and financially and through curriculum. And I had a fireside kind of virtual meeting with Shelly, and I was asking her about, is she really seeing many founders in the InsurTech space? And she kind of sat back in her chair and she was like, no, because we're not really an educated community when it comes to insurance. We've been almost forgotten. And I was like, this is at the crux of what we're talking about. And so I'm so excited. BrokerTech Ventures is putting on an educational series with Black Girl Ventures in December to not only meet these incredible entrepreneurs, but try and spark some interest in getting them excited about this crazy world of insurance, and that they could be a part of it. But those are just 2 or 3 small examples, and the key word is intentionality. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't happen without intentional purpose behind it.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. And it's so, like, you have to be open to those opportunities when they come about. That's so great. You just haven't. You're having this fireside chat. Like, you keep investigating. Like, you dig deeper.
Yes.
And I think the other thing that you mentioned, it's not just the job of women to help other women. Like, it takes all of us to to keep that moving forward. I absolutely love it. So 2 more questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
I know you dove into this before, but if you want to re-mention it, what does the future hold? Either for, I know BrokerTech Ventures has some stuff coming up. So if you want to go back over that again, that would be great, or anything else.
Sure, absolutely. So through BrokerTech Ventures, I think you're going to see a few things as we move into 2021, and I'll give you some tea leaf, indicators. And so I mentioned you'll see and hear something around an international expansion in the weeks ahead. We will also be adding additional insurance companies to BrokerTech Ventures, and that's very exciting. 2 other big key components for us in 2021 is we see a great opportunity in the investment space to lead out larger investments through BrokerTech Ventures and our agencies and insurance companies. And then also we're deploying an initiative called Labs. So Labs by Holmes Murphy, Labs by Payne West, Labs by Connor Strong, M3. The idea is, how do we recognize the employees in each of our agencies and insurance companies who they may not be in the C-suite, but they're at the desk, literally implementing these insurtech solutions. So we're asking them to embrace technology and innovation as a part of their day job, but it's above and beyond what they already were doing. So let's recognize those employees so they don't feel it's one more thing. It's more around you're actually driving the innovation for our agencies from within. So let's recognize you. And I think that's going to be really exciting for the industry in 21. And then I think you're going to see a lot coming out from Holmes Murphy. We have some exciting opportunities to really add some additional spark to who we are, what we do, and I won't give you much more than that right now.
I will be keeping an ear out to
Yes.
to see what you guys have going on. I think it's great, and that it's to watch the industry continue to innovate. It makes us so much stronger. So I love how you guys are embracing that. So now for the final question, if you could play DJ and you get to pick any song, what song are you going to choose?
Oh my goodness. Gosh. Well, I'm gonna share something with you that very few people know. But so again, I mentioned I went to Iowa State University, and these were the days of the Thirsty Thursday, as we used to call them. And these are even back in the days where this is going to blow some people's minds when they're listening to this, but they would have any coin, any drink Thursdays at one of our bars in our Welch Avenue district in Ames. And I actually was guest DJ on Thursdays. So I had lots of great fun in those days. And I always had, there was a critical moment in the evening, and it had to be just right. You had to, gauge the mood of the room and the group, and how many people were actually dancing. And the minute you felt it was right was when you would flip on Michael Jackson, and you knew that when you could flip on and see the dance floor fill up, but that was the moment in time that just we called it the Michael Jackson moment. So and there obviously are many of his songs that would fill the dance floor, but I'm just going to give it to you. It's the Michael Jackson moment. That's the critical DJ moment in time.
Was there a go-to for Michael Jackson? There's so many. I don't know how you.
Well, given that it was an Iowa State campus, Thriller it was very popular because there actually was a dance that went along with it at Iowa State. So Thriller would have been the go-to during Michael Jackson moment.
Oh my gosh. This is amazing. I am going to tell you that I did not see the DJ story coming. Like, you're my first legit DJ that is actually done.
Well, I don't know. I mean, DJing has changed a lot since
Everybody's a DJ
since the early 2000s. And I will say that's not necessarily my favorite song, but that was the song.
Yeah.
We knew that that the mood was just right, that when we flipped it on, I mean, it would you could fill up the dance floor. So
I love it. This has been amazing, Susan. I knew it wasn't going to be anything short of that. I've learned so much. I'm now gonna, like, if I need some true DJing advice, you're gonna be my first call for sure. This has been wonderful. It's been tremendous. I'm so grateful for this time with you, and I am looking forward to our next happy hour together. But I guess I'll just close by wishing you a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Olivia. Thank you again. It's been so much fun. And I am also excited for our next virtual happy hour. It will be, again, great women, great celebrations, and it's been fun to get to know everyone together.
Yes, absolutely. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Olivia.
Bye-bye.